and welcome back to the mailroom. My name is Nikki Aranado. We're here following up on a conversation that we had in part one. This is part two. So thanks again, panelists, for joining us today. We're going to go right into the additional questions that we had from the audience, okay? A lot of questions came in, so get ready, guys. The first one is there a such thing as being too honest in your relationship?
Blunt and honest can actually, it's like walking on a very thin line. So as long as you're not hurting them emotionally, honest is being honest in how you communicate with the person, what your needs are. But if you're there to be degrading, the consenting, I mean, you have to really be careful with the words that you choose when you talk. As long as it's constructive, then you're good to go. If it's just to make them feel bad, that's something to stay away from.
Constructive criticism is great. The way that you know if criticism is constructive or not is if it makes you feel terrible or not. If it makes you feel really badly, then it's not constructive. But if it makes you feel empowered to make different choices, or it makes you feel enlightened with self-knowledge, then it's constructive criticism. And this is all about how kind you are when you're sharing. You can say anything to anybody and care for their heart. You could say, I'm breaking up with you, and care for their heart. Or you could say, I love you, and mean something completely different and destroy them. So it's all about how caring and kind you are.
The best way is to say, how would you feel if these words were given to you or were being told to you? If you feel like, oh no, this is too harsh, make sure that the other person will not receive those same words. So it's all about how you perceive them and how the other person will perceive it as well.
And whatever you're sharing, it may be your truth. It may in fact be the truth. But I think the word for today is responsible. I think there's a way we can give information. We maybe can delay it. We maybe can cut it short. I mean, timing is important in life as well. So we should be responsible in the communication that we have with people, even though it's your truth and it may be the truth, but it's important to be responsible.
Well, I have a lot of experience in this based on trial and error with my own wife. So it's all about how you're framing it. I noticed how, like, if I said something to my wife, like my brother said, it's the absolute truth, she may not receive it, and she doesn't receive it, it's because it's how I gave it. But then I could say the same thing with a lot of sugar on top of it, and then she can receive it a lot better.
As long as you have the sweet tooth. Right?
Yeah, that's really, really good information. How about, just to add on to that question, when in dating, when you don't know each other so well, in general, what is the pace of, or what are the indicators that it's safe to share more about yourself, things that you might not be so proud of, but the other person needs to know, right?
Well, I think in the dating aspect, the volume of information you share would be based on your comfort level and the time and that you've been with the person and where you see or feel the relationship going. If I'm dating someone, I'm not going to share a lot of personal, intimate details about myself or my family, and we've only dated 3 months, and I'm still on the fence about where this relationship is going, because I'm just not going to open myself up to you like that. Now, if we're really close and I'm thinking about, I could see myself being with this woman, then I think there's some things that she needs to know about me.
Well, it depends on how the comfort level that you have. If you feel that you have a good communication with the other person, then you could allow it. Again, it's all about intuition, as Ray was saying. It's all about how you feel with the other person or the comfort level that you have. If you feel hesitant, I would say restrain yourself from being too honest or from divulging too much information about yourself, and it just surf the wave, ride the wave. I mean, it's something that you will have to eventually understand that if you're giving too much, they're gonna run away. That's a given. If you give too little, they're gonna think that you're holding on to something that may be too important for them to have to know about who you are. So there's a good balance. Everything, again, in life and the universe is all about balancing everything.
I think it's important for all of us, but especially women, to understand that there's a process involved. Oftentimes, women will have put the work in and they've gotten themselves together, and then by the third date, they're sharing with you all of their hopes, and kind of like the sentiment is, "This is me. That's it. That's me in a nutshell." Hey, so, and it may be a bit much too early in most instances. You got to be mindful of that. That kind of can, I think, weird us guys out a little bit. So kind of even it out and understand, even if you share everything in the first 5 dates, which is not possible, but if you share everything that you feel like is important, there's still a process, and more will come out, and so it's important to understand it's a process.
I agree with what he's saying, but I would also add that there's kind of this unpacking of different levels of insecurities, like we're both feeling it out, how safe am I with you, how safe am I with you, but when you deeply, deeply feel very safe within yourself and know yourself deeply, then you really are not afraid, and you can share anything, and you're not afraid of the response, you're not afraid of getting rejected. Like, what are we talking about here? It's a fear of rejection. If I say too much, am I going to be rejected? That's legitimate. I mean, if this is where you are at emotionally, if you know what you can handle emotionally, and the two of you are kind of agreeing to help each other, to help walk each other through this relationship so you can become whole people. But ultimately, if you can do the work within yourself to be completely comfortable with who you are, then a lot of these questions will sort of evaporate, because you are who you are, not I am who I am. Is that okay? But I know who I am.
The caveat to that, Ron, I would say, is everything isn't for everyone. So
yes.
you should be kind of
all for the better.
It should be tenored some way to try to figure out, how should I move with this guy? You know, there should be some temperance there.
This is
So
very
that's the
high
spirit
level.
of-
This is very a high level thing that I just gave. I mean, it would get you out of trying to connect with someone that you shouldn't be connecting with otherwise. You know what I mean? Which that's okay too. But it just depends on who each individual, like as you say, you know, there's great
Yeah.
wisdom in what you're saying as well.
So what I'm hearing is there's two, levels or tiers to this, right? Where you do the initial assessment as to whether or not it's safe. And then in that, once you determine this person, yeah, it's a good cause, the safety there. But how do I really connect with this person in sharing? How do they receive information? How can I get them to truly understand me?
Because
as
here's
an
the
individual?
thing. Ultimately, we are longing to share every single thing about ourselves, right? Like, ultimately, both people are just, oh God, is this the person I can just... So we know that this is the end game anyway. But of course, if it's, temperamentally, chemically, cosmically, just doesn't work this isn't appropriate. If it's not appropriate, that's real. So
But then it depends again on the boundaries that you give yourself. I mean, when it comes to the honesty, this honest is the best policy, but to a point of hurting the other person, no. So you have to know, it's all common sense as well when it comes to dating, but when it comes to relationship. When most people do online dating, so at this point, how much information are you going to divulge online for securing the first date? Now, of course, questions are, interchanged during the messaging part, but then those catfishing and ghosting and all the terms that they use with online dating. If you say one little word or one bad word, that's it. The person will disappear, and you wonder, where did they go? And then you're going to start wondering, is it me? So there's always a common denominator when it comes to relationship and why they didn't work. You are the person. If you failed at 5 relationships, who's the common denominator here? Yourself. So then this is where people start going to depression, wondering if they're the cause, if cause and effect, principle of causality. So again, honesty, it's all about how much you're comfortable in divulging, either online or face-to-face.
But you can also learn a lot about yourself, like if 5 people reject you, yes, absolutely, there's something going on there. But, I remember when I was much younger, and I used to go to dance clubs, because all my friends were going to dance clubs. And
Internet didn't exist then.
Oh, right. And looking back, it was not my scene. I mean, I was just very uncomfortable. I hated it, but I just kept going because my friends were going and everyone, this is what you did. And so if I had had the insight and the clarity to realize it's okay if I find something else for myself, if I find my own thing. So just because you're not on the same level as the place that, as the people around you necessarily, there may be another tribe for you. Maybe. These are just things to think about. Or there could be something really wrong with you. And
You know? Again, as Don was saying, sometimes your subconscious mind is so used to the bad behavior that you've created within yourself that you continue doing what you're doing, thinking that this is normal, but everyone else around you will say, this person needs therapy.
All right, we can move to the next question here I have. Let's see here. If a mature man is still a dreamer, but seems unable to apply the discipline, managing time, money, etc., required to change the dreams into goals, is it best to accept that he cannot, do that, or will not change?
Then it comes all about supporting that person, supporting their dream. You see, the thing is, when you say dreamer, is it about goals and objectives that he gives them in himself, and then he wants to pursue them, or you have to be more specific?
I think that's exactly what's lacking here. So there's a
Those are the
mature
questions.
man that's a dreamer, but he's
Okay.
incapable to manage time, money, all those things that will be required to change his dream into goals.
If
So
he's
he
a
doesn't
procrastinator,
have-
then
Yeah,
this
doesn't
is
have the
something. This is already a
discipline.
very big attribute about a person. They always say, "Oh, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be a CEO. I'm going to be whatever." But then you see them play video games. Then again, how much time you want to invest in that person to determine if this is a long-time partner. Again, it's this is a very broad question. It has to be very more specific in terms of what is a dreamer.
So what I'm hearing in the question is very similar to what we addressed in part one, when I think there was a question around essentially whether or not a woman can change a man, and if she's seeing what she's seeing, is it up to her to make the decision based on what she's seeing or for what is hoped for?
Well, then a woman can actually help the guy reach his dream. And this is, as Don was saying, it's all about going all with that person. The good times, the bad times, the struggles, whatever it is. And if you feel that this person has potential to wanting to be investing your time and energy, then yes, go all for it. I mean, it's you have to have a very supportive mate to be able to help you reach your dream. But then again, if that person goes and play video games all day long and just talk about BS, saying, I want to be this, I want to be that, then yeah, you stay away and you just know that this is a person who's going to waste your time for the rest of your life.
Well, I can speak to that personally because I used to be like that. When I got married, before I got married, I just jumped right in and did every and anything because the end result was if it failed, it was only on me. But then when I got married, my perspective changed because now if it fails, I don't fail by myself. I got a wife, I got kids who are all depending on me. So now operating in the space that I'm in, there's a lot of things that I need to pull the trigger on. So what I did to get help with that was I got some therapy to help me move past and feel comfortable failing. Because a lot of times people need to be comfortable in failing. We can have like the grandest ideas, we can mark it up, talk it up, and yes, it's a very big dream. But if the person is afraid to fail, then that's all it's gonna be is a dream.
that's deep.
But we have to realize that, and what I had to learn was failure is data collection. And my failures, it teaches me what I shouldn't do, so when I get back at it, I'll know what not to do so then I can be successful. So like right now, like I'm in the middle of, well, just about finished, of writing a book. I've never written a book before in my life. It's very scary. And one of the things I dealt with was, are people gonna like it? Are they gonna buy it? Are they gonna wanna read it? Are they gonna judge me? Are they gonna reject me? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of dynamics here that I'm dealing with other than just writing a book. But That's where we talk about the ride or die. My wife supports me, so she's giving me that push. She's not saying like, well, Dad, you just been talking about this forever and you still haven't moved on, you still haven't done nothing. No, she's encouraging me. She's giving me, because my wife has written a book. So she's pushing me along. And then I'm taking responsibility for my own actions by getting counseling and looking at other men who've written books and seeing how they've done it and getting some coaching. So to move past these things that can be hiccups. So I don't think the gentleman, it's not necessarily that he's a failure or just a big dreamer. It's just he could be afraid to act. So there's some other things attached to it.
Actually, if I could piggyback, sorry to interrupt you. The acronym FAIL is first attempt in learning. That's what fail means. So you need to fail to learn. And for you to succeed, you need to have a lot of lessons. And for you to be able to bring and reach your goals, you need to do a lot of failures.
Exactly.
Right. A good reframe, I think, on this question is very simple. This guy says he wants to do this, he says he wants to do that. It never amounts to anything. I hear a lot of women say that. I think once you have tried to help the guy operationalize the goal, the dream, whatever it is, and it's still, he's not acting on it or whatever the case might be, perhaps, some therapy, some counseling would help. Or you have to make a decision, I can't put but so much in. I've tried to help him operationalize this. I've supported him, I've encouraged him. He's not moving. There's more to it than I'm aware of. You have a decision to make.
So when do you pull the plug?
That's a very, very individual thing. If as a woman you've tried to encourage a guy to get it moving, because with him getting it moving, what it means for you all, it's a tough decision.
And
it's a tough decision.
Ask yourself, like, you've been with this fellow every step of the way. So this isn't like a surprise. All through the process, the whole time you've known him, you've seen what he's done, and every day you've gotten up and made the choice to continue with this. So you're getting something out of it. What are you getting? Is it preventing, are you getting an excuse to not face some of your own insecurities? Are you feeling safe with him for some reason because then you won't feel challenged? It could be any number of things, but you have to ask yourself, why do you continue to make this choice? What are you getting out of it? Now, as far as him changing his behavior, that will only happen in a meaningful way for your relationship through acceptance. You have to totally accept him where he is, and it doesn't mean accept that he's going to continue to be dysfunctional. It means that you accept the fact of who he is today, and then without needing him to measure up, you sort of see his value in who he is now and see what stage of development he is at right now, and then give him the safe space. With the challenge comes from you supporting him and encouraging him to get the help he may need, not from saying, dude, you got to measure up, man. All right, well, are you if you don't do this by Friday, then giving ultimatums. That's destructive to any kind of meaningful relationship.
But then you have to see, when do you decide that you've invested enough time and when you have to cut your losses.
Definitely.
Because people say, well, I've been together for 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, a marriage. I mean, unfortunately, 50% of all marriages end up in divorce. And of course, because of irreconcilable differences, whatever it is, but again, you have to determine, when are you unhappy? Again, you've got to be sometimes selfish, because it's your own sanity that depends on it.
And it's the language that you use. I know we got to move on, Nikki, but it's the language that you use to address said issue. If he's expressed said goal, said dream, did you address it in a way whereby you sunned him, and really what he heard was his mother complaining because he didn't clean his room? Or did you address it in a loving, encouraging way? Because I can tell you, every man on this stage and every man I know, we count on encouragement from the women in our life. That maternal energy, we need it, we love it, we gotta have it. So did you use that, or did you use, I'm fed up because he's just like John and Rick and Joe, the Jews I was dating before? Or did you really give it an honest and sincere put him in a position to win. Because he should be trying to put you in a position to win as well.
Exactly.
As we should do our children as well. It's all about getting the best out of people.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Right. Did you really give it a good go, or was it
Superficial.
there you go, you always saying something and then don't do it.
Right.
What's the, how did you give it to him? How did you package it?
So there are two things that I'm hearing with this, and my feeling in regards to how you approach, this situation, which can be very, very sensitive when you talk about a man's dream, is like you were saying, is it coming from a place of love? And sometimes as you're going through it, that'll be an indicator as to whether or not you even love this man. Because sometimes we're in relationships, like you were saying, there are other reasons why this relationship is serving a woman other than actual true love and wanting that person to do well and wanting the best for that person. And I think when that's in place, it's natural to give those things, to give that support, to be that ride or die, to be that encourager, to not criticize, So that's how I feel about that. That's a good assessment as to whether or not you should stay based on what you're feeling, right?
And I've often said
As a woman.
this, and I've often said this, if you have a dream that a man can't support, and conversely, if he shares a dream with you that you can't support, in my personal opinion, that relationship should be dissolved immediately. If a person can't attach to your dream and support you in that, I personally think that relationship should dissolve.
That's how serious it is.
Because you should never lose dreams in life. I don't
And
care
also-
how
That's
old we
how
get, you
serious
should
it is.
never ever stop dreaming.
And also, we all have what we call energy signatures. And unfortunately, in many relationships, those energy signatures in the beginning kind of like walk the same path, but after that, they kind of diverge into different paths. For example, I came across a case where it was a couple that they were alcoholic, and one did decide to go through treatment with AA, the other one didn't. So she was walking this path and he was suddenly walking the other path. And suddenly the energy signature, the gap was so wide that they didn't see eye to eye anymore, and they were married for like 16 years. So of course it ended up in divorce, and I tried my best to be able to avoid that. But when it's something that becoming too toxic, both of them, especially the health of the woman that is trying to do something, a good change for herself, didn't work out for them. So this is when I contacted my friend who's a divorce lawyer, and I sent it to them.
All right, so yeah, that's a really great question. I like that. All right, so the next one here is, I have a physics degree, MBA, and law degree. Many men my age, 52, find this unsettling. I also drive a Jeep, Margie? I guess that's the name of the Jeep. So you have any advice for me?
Intimidation. She's very intimidating to other guys. If a woman is too smart, it could have a lot of benefits for herself, but not for the men. So I think I know a lot of people here, and I think in my mind I know who that is. But the question is that you've got to be honest to yourself and feel proud for what you've accomplished in life, and no one should judge you otherwise. No one should be with you just because you have a certain status or even too high of a status. If they cannot handle it, hasta la vista, baby.
But also, it's about how kind you are. I mean, any man who's is going to be impressed by you, and if you are feeling spiritually generous towards him, that is all he needs. He'll be like, yeah, I won the lottery. I think I love smart women. I love smart, accomplished women, and I think that many men do. And really, the intimidation, can you forgive? Can you be merciful with the fact that a man is intimidated by you and see his value and the things that he brings to the table, and be kind and say, yeah, I have all of these attributes, and I choose you because I choose you. And then the man's like, all right.
But you have to see what he has to offer on the table as well.
Right.
If he's like a bum, just like not doing anything much with his life, stay away.
And I think you have to humanize yourself, because are you leading with those things subconsciously? Are you leading with that? And then kind of stepping back saying, well, why are they intimidated by this? Or is it just kind of come out and then they find out and then maybe they're intimidated by it? I would say humanize yourself, because and also be mindful that the skills that got you all of those things, the degrees, the Jeep and all of that, may not be, and probably are not going to be the same skills that get you and keeps you with the guy that you really can connect with.
When you say humanize, you mean down to earth?
Yeah. Be down to
Be
earth.
approachable.
I mean, who cares about the Jeep, the degrees,
Well, women care about it because they've acquired it, right? So, but this is my point, and I agree with you totally, because I've been having these conversations for years with men, and so that is one of the reasons why I developed Prepare to Be Pursued, specifically for women that have achieved a lot, because I've noticed that pattern, which you just explained. I've watched it. I've seen it. We as women, when we know we're smart, when we know we are accomplished, when we know we have a bright future ahead of us, we tend to lead with that. And we tend to hold on to that and allow it to define us to the degree where the guy has nothing to hold on to if that's not what he's looking for.
Because then it prevents you from being vulnerable. You're saying, oh, here, this is my value here, and so then now I don't have to risk you rejecting my heart, which would just destroy and make all this stuff meaningless if I'm vulnerable to you and you reject my heart.
But you're hiding behind a facade. That's another thing. I mean, if you're creating the facade with education, with material assets, is it something that you're not being true to yourself?
It's not a facade, it's a wall, you know?
Hiding behind the wall, because, if you achieve things, it's an achievement. It's real. It's not a facade, but it could be used as a mask. If a woman, let's say, I'll use myself for example. Let's say I feel like I've accomplished a lot in my career, and I use that is what makes Nikki valuable. Like, I am proud about that. Everyone I meet, male, female, doesn't matter. That's what I lead with, because that's what I'm excited about. I'll pose this to the panel just to get clarity and, to see if we're all on the same page. If a woman does that, is that what men look for in a woman as far as a qualifying factor for relationships? Their achievements.
I'm trying to get clarity with this, because I'm confused, only because who cares about that? Like, I don't. It's in other words.
Both ways, man.
Hold on, but does that make her a bad person or not? Here you go. If she's honest,
it doesn't make her a bad person. It's just, I think there is some self-awareness that has to happen, because, again, it's just a fair question. Are you leading with that for a reason? Is it a reason? For example, I have a buddy who he says women always want to borrow money from him. They want to borrow. I don't mean money. I'm talking about thousands. Like, they want to borrow 10,000, 20,000. Like, they want to borrow like significant money.
What is your bank?
and I said to him, well, he's put himself in a good position to do well. I said, why do they even know that you have that kind of money to lend?
He brags.
Why do they even know that?
He brags.
So in other words, what I'm saying is, and I'm trying. I do. Obviously, we do empathic listening to try to figure out what the real. Maybe the question is, I have these things, and I'm meeting guys who don't have these things. Is that maybe the question?
Well,
so there's some unevenness there. Is that?
It very much could be, but then there also, I feel like this. I think women have experiences where it doesn't matter if the man has more than her or not. Some guys may not feel 100% comfortable with a woman being a high achiever, right? Particularly if there may not be a showing of the other qualities that make her valuable to that man. I think that's
men are
the
afraid
dialogue
of
I
women
want to
anyway.
get going here.
Men are afraid of women anyway. So this is kind of like, you're putting on a big face, but you're like, I hope she doesn't reject me. I hope she thinks that I'm great, I'm awesome. And so then when she comes out, I'm doing this, and you're just like, oh, so she's telling me that I don't measure up to her.
But then again, if they have to do something like that, so now the next part of online dating, they're going to have a little button that says, upload your bank statement to see how much money you make. I mean, this is to that point, to that extreme. If this is so important.
I know, but that's the thing. I think that's the discussion I want to have. How important are your accomplishments when it comes to connecting with another
You have
person.
to be proud. You have to be proud of who you are, what you've done, but don't
Mm-hmm.
brag. Humanize it, as he was saying. Be down to earth. Don't come on the table the first time that you say, oh, by the way, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is what I have. There's no point.
Absolutely. And the flip side of that, it's okay to have expectations, but it's a balance, because I saw this post and very quickly. The question was, if Susan makes $440,000 a year and John makes $40,000 a year and they're happily married, what are your thoughts on that? Now, normally I wouldn't inject my 2 cents on anything, because that's two people. They found a way to be happy. Touche. However, my 2 cents was, I personally couldn't do something like that, because I just feel like that woman has now picked up a child, in a sense, and it's that man is going to end up getting sunned. I mean, it's just too far of a gap. You know, it's just too far of a gap. So when we talk about being evenly yoked and so forth, I know it's more the origin of it is of a spiritual context. Two people believe something spiritually of the same context, but I use it in that context. I think they're unevenly yoked. It's just too far of a gap.
But in my opinion, you're saying they're unevenly yoked because of the amount of money she makes and he makes. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think every woman is shallow like that. I just don't. I'm not going to say every woman is shallow like that.
I agree.
You have women out here who make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. They could care less. They just want a man to love them and respect them.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing.
Do you see what I'm saying? So to me, to get off into this thing of, oh well, you only make $40,000 a year and I make $200,000 a year, I'm not going to talk to you. Come on, man. When are we going to get past that kind of thinking?
Right.
Because that makes no sense. Because a lot of times, you see women who, to what you just said, will make $200,000 a year, who will overlook a brother who makes $57,000 a year, but that brother that she's overlooking that makes $50,000 a year, he will love her, he will respect her, he will take care of her, he will defend her. Do you see what I'm saying? But then you're like, well, he makes $200,000, I make $200,000. Now you mad because he's cheating. Now you mad because he's disrespecting you. Now you mad because he's not coming home at night.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would say you have some women who are just really over it, and they just want a man to love them. You know, if a man can just carry his weight, do whatever he needs to do in terms of making the family unit successful.
The glue.
Exactly. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter, because in my household, we all the money goes in one place. It's not like my wife has her account, I have my account, and then at the end of the month, we'll just put a little bit of money in here, but she never knows how much I got or whoever. No, it all goes in one spot, and half the time I don't even know how much money's in the bank. You know what I'm saying? Because in my house, we just delegated, okay, you pay the bills or whatever, I'll do whatever, and it's like no one even thinks about that. When I met my wife, I made $12 and something cents a year. You know what I'm saying? But I was a college graduate, but I had potential, baby.
So you sold your potential. So that's how you got married.
I respect what you said. I mean, I respect your opinion. But I'm going to tell you, the dating arena, I think you forgot, is not
21st century is screwed up, man.
It's not what you think it is.
And that's why
Especially in the
people are
DC
the way
metropolitan
they are.
area, it's a very plastic arena.
It is very plastic, but I agree with a lot of what I've heard today, and I'm a huge proponent of getting back to the basics. Like, at some point, what is the purpose of uniting with someone and sharing your life with someone other than loving someone and catering to someone and caring for someone and building with someone?
That's the question.
When are we
is
going to get
how
back
is
to that?
Plastic arena, yes. And how's plastic working for you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So
Just
I mean,
find
that's
somebody
part of
and love 'em.
that's part of what my passion is in regards to working with women, because we have accomplished a lot, and we should absolutely be proud of those things and should not have to mute ourselves in order to land a man or whatever the case is. I do not agree with any of that. However, I think we've heard a lot today where there are certain qualities of a woman that men seek. And if we aren't working on those things, right? To get to a place where we're able to show those things, to elude those things, to, for lack of a better word, market those things. When you're dating, you are showing of yourself. And if all we're comfortable in doing is, I did this, I accomplished this, what you bringing? If that's all that we can do, that's the level of the conversations that we're having in dating, you got to question how deep would that connection eventually be.
But also remember, ladies, that this is all of our experience and opinion that we have dealt in our therapy practice, psychology practice, psychotherapy, etc. So you have to take it really based on your own perception, because what we say, probably some women here do not disagree at all. I mean, or they really disagree with everything we're saying, in which is perfectly fine. But this is based on what we've learned, what we've experienced, and what we've heard from our patients, from our, the client that we see on a daily basis. So again, it's a matter of opinion, a matter of perception.
Yeah. Plastic is choking the planet, baby.
It is.
That's a good point.
And I just, are you leading with certain things that put you in harm's way, and then you step back, wonder why, like what's going on? Who cares what degree you got? I'm never leading with that. And when guys are leading with that, with you got to know, like, he's feeling some type of, like, he's trying to impress, or all of that stuff will kind of sort of come out. It's what I call adult things. Like, adults have adult things. So, yes, I have a car, yes, I have my own place, yes, I have this, yes, I have that, that stuff will just organically come out.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're leading with that, trying to gauge where he is with it. You maybe should be gauging, how's he treat me? How's he acting here? How's he treating the waiter? How is he to the hostess? Maybe you should gauge those type of things, because
if it's really important to you, you could squeeze it into the conversation nonchalantly.
Yeah.
If that's really important, but
really
let it go naturally, organically, exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, we have so many questions here, and we're going to find a way to get those answers out to you. We're wrapping up now. But what I wanted to do to close things out was to ask you guys a question. In my work, I've kind of summed up 5 major things that I've seen in women that sometimes could make it a little bit difficult for her to connect to somebody else, right? And they are, first, the scarcity complex. So what I say about that is not feeling there's enough men. Second one is men that I like, don't ask me out. Trust issues. The word submit makes me cringe. And also just generally being guarded, right? So that's on the women's side. If each of you could share with me, from a male's perspective, what do you think is the number one thing that blocks men from connection?
Feeling judged.
Fear.
Socialization, how men have been socialized.
Yeah, I don't know this. I'm a man, so I'm just trying to think, like, but I think maybe one of the things that could make a man feel there's not like if he feels inadequate.
Mentally?
Okay. Yeah.
Or,
he could feel inadequate in any
In
capacity.
any
Right,
capacity.
exactly.
but then
not
someone
sure
can be wealthy financially, but then suffer from mental illness.
Yeah.
Or as you were saying previously in the first part, you said that when you constantly behave a certain way, your subconscious mind absorbs this kind of behavior, and it becomes normal for that person, but abnormal for everyone around them. So again, what's the thin line, the boundary that you create from within, that you start wondering, am I adequate, inadequate? Where do I place myself?
Across all domains. If a man feels inadequate across all domains, it's probably the recipe for something not good.
You need treatment and you need drugs,
You know,
at this point.
I mean, whether it's whatever domain we're talking about, it's probably not going to be good. And then the whole, and I think it's going to be added. You heard it from me first. It's going to somewhere find its way into the DSM, either as a specifier or as a diagnosis. This thing of perfectionism. Perfectionism right now is being hidden under anxiety and kind of OCD. But this thing of perfectionism is causing
So much.
That's why I have tremendous respect for you when you shared about learning how to fail, because as men, that's not how we're socialized. We're not socialized, and typically the generation before us would never admit that they were wrong. Nothing was ever, they won't ask for help. They didn't go to the doctor. Forget mental health. That wasn't even a part of the conversation. We're going to the doctor. We're going to therapy. We're doing these things. So perfectionism. Just don't try to get the help you need for that. And all of us, not women, all of us, for that perfectionism thing, that is single-handedly destroying lives.
It's a great point.
It's debilitating.
But you have to be also flexible. You could have someone who's perfect and then yet allow the other person to kind of like be who they are. So you could be perfectional for yourself, always be finicky about everything in life. But yet if you accept the other person that, okay, they leave their underwear on the floor or their socks, whatever it is, okay, as long as you don't, go crazy on them, then you're okay. I mean, if let's say they clean the bathroom but not to your expectation, be flexible, be okay.
I
Just
just
said, okay,
wonder
it
how
is what
much
it is.
social media has contributed to that uptick in.
Well,
Yes.
I got a theory on that. Social media
Yeah.
is a platform that allows you to appear to go from peak to peak to peak to peak, win to win to win to win. Most of us, as is the tenor of life, go from peak to valley, peak to valley,
Yeah, of course.
valley,
Yes.
valley, peak, peak, valley,
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 peak,
valley.
peak. But
Abyss.
but social media is a platform that makes it appear this person's